let's continue from there. So this is where we are last time. We kind of were left here, and what we want now is the order table itself, right? So the order table, if we think about it, is a whole new component, all right? And that's what we want to kind of add in here. So it's inside of the admin area, and since we have our auth component, then what we want is our order table component, which we can add in there. We also want to add in our product editor, which will be our book editor component, and our book table component. We want those kind of things in there as well. I'm going to add them in as, I'm going to scaffold them in, and then hopefully what it'll do is it'll give us some additional information or additional functionality that we want. So ng-gc, and we want to put it in the admin area, and we want to call the first component the order table component. ng-gc, and in the admin area we want to put in a book editor component. All right, ng-gc, we want to put in the admin area a book table component, which is all the three components we want, so we can kind of show and update the book table and so on. Now we have to make some changes on the back end. We haven't finished doing, so we can get that all done. All right, so cool. Let's go into the order table first. So by the way, we've already updated all this stuff in here. We don't have any links for this in our router. We will. So again, this is a cool thing. We can do this like little route here. We can also take this and put it inside of our routing, and maybe what we'll do is we'll refactor this later on and put it there as a child component. Let's get going. All right, so step number one, we want to update the order table. Let's take a look at what's in there right now. So this is a basic component again, right, in our order table, which is kind of cool. So we want to be able to add in or have a reference to some kind of order repository, which is right here. We have the order repository as well as order information, the order model, right? So we have the order model and the order repository. Want to have that in here in the order table. We don't really need the selectors. For example, I don't need a style URL. I don't need this part. So you can kind of trim down. We don't need the selector component. We're not going to use it. So we can kind of get rid of the CSS for this one. So get rid of that. So we're not going to do any custom CSS here at all. And the same thing goes with the some of the other stuff we have. Now what we need, let's start going into that, is it shipped or not? So again, in our class we have on init. Let's just restructure this so it's in line with our best practices. And then we can say included shipped, right? That's equal to false. So the first thing is, that's the first Boolean we have in there. In the constructor function, we want to kind of talk about private. We're going to call it repository, which is of type order repository. And we want to use this one. All right, so that's what we want there. We also want a couple of methods. So this is what we have so far. We want a method underneath our get init called, or ng on init, called get orders, which is of type order array, right? And get orders, what it's going to do is we're going to return a this.repository.get orders, and we're going to filter the order based on this.included shipped or not, right? Or if the order is not shipped. Depending on if the order is shipped, if this little check mark is on, which we're going to see, or if it's shipped. Next is we're going to have a marked shipped method, which is going to take the order, which is of type order and return void. And this little method, what it's going to do is going to have a little check mark that we're going to use, shipped. And that's equal to order.shipped. If it's order.shipped, then we want to make this false. Otherwise, we're going to make it true. Ternary operator. Okay. And then what we want to say is that this repository dot update order. Now we don't have update order with order because our repository doesn't have this. So we're going to add this in a second, but we're going to keep this in here for now. And also we want to be able to delete a particular order. We're doing full CRUD again, mean CRUD this time, and delete order. We don't have delete order by ID, but we're going to add that in. All right, so that's our order tables component. Let's add in the update order and delete order inside of our repository. So I'm going to go to the order repository. And so this is preparing again. I like preparing a lot, it looks like. So at the bottom, we have save order, right? But we also want to do update order and delete order. So update order. And we'll say update order, updated order. That's what we'll call it. And we'll say SF type order, which is going to return void. And update order is this dot data source. This dot data source dot update order. And we don't have that yet. We're going to get there. Updated order. And subscribe. Order. What I want to do here is we want to say that this dot orders dot splice, and we want to splice this dot orders dot find index, and then order itself, it's an O, with order dot underscore ID. If that's exactly equal to order dot underscore ID, or from there to for one order. There we go. And that's going to do our updated order. We don't have this updated order on our data source. We're going to add that in a second. As well as delete order. Again, we have a lot of dependencies here. ID number. And delete order is going to the data source again. This dot data source dot delete order. And we're going to pass in the ID subscribe to our order. I should say subscribe, not subscribe. To our order, right? And inside our subscription area, so for the promise, when we get back is we get notified that the order is going to order, and where ID is exactly equal to order.id, and then and 1. Okay, so that is scaffolding out our stuff. We still have to fix this part, and that part gets fixed. As you notice, there's like one after the other. That gets fixed inside of the data source, and the data source for us is our REST data source now. So rest.dataSource, this is the next part. So we have get orders, but we don't have delete order or update order. Let's do that one now. So delete order. We're going to take an ID, which is of type number, right? And it's going to be an observable of type order. And we're going to say that this.load token, so I'm going to make sure that that's good. And we're going to return this.http.get. We can't do this right now because we don't set this up in the back end, but we're going to code it. And again, what I want is sorry, I'm just going to try and make sure we're good with all this stuff. Yes, I think we are. With this base URL, it's got to be a backtick. This base URL order /delete $$ID, and this is going to be like what we did on the express side, but here we're going to do it up here. So HTTP options. All right, so that is base URL, and why is that having an issue? Yeah, because this is wrong, that's why. All right, so, and again, I'm not sure if it should be orders.delete like this. I think it's this for us, as well as we don't have that functionality. Our update order, not updated order, update order. Update order actually does when you pass in an order, which is of type order, and it's going to be an observable of type order. Okay, so that's what it's going to be, observable of type order. And then what we want to do is we're going to do a this.load token and return this.http.post order. And we're going to do the same thing where we put it inside of a backtick, a format string, a template string. It's that base URL, orders /edit / and then we want to also interpolate order._ID. Okay, and we want to pass in order and this.http options, which should do everything we need from an update perspective when we get the update going. Now, we don't have that on the back end, but it's there. All right, so we have update order, delete order. Let's go back to our order repository. We have delete order, we have update order, not updated order. So data source update order, which is what we want here, and it follows the line all the way back into our order table, which does all this. Now, our order table also needs to have HTML. I just want to see the order table right now. It's pretty long, but we can probably get through it pretty quick. So again, we want a div with a class of form-check. Okay, and inside that we want a label with a class of form-check-label. And inside the label there is, actually sorry, not inside, but beside the label there is an input. And the input has a class of form-check-input. This is the checkbox, that's what it is. And this is going to be called display shipped orders. That's what that is, display shipped orders. And let's click on that. So this is here, and this is here. There's your input. Let's put this in the next line here, and we'll put the div tag here. And why am I not seeing this in the proper order? This is incorrect. So a label and then the label's closed. That seems odd. I think this is actually wrong, but anyway, because an input inside of a label. Okay, and this part here could be out here. And what is the input for? The 4 is, there is no 4 for the label at all. And the ng model, we have to put a two-way data binding in here. So form input, and then I want to put in square brackets, round brackets, ng model. And that is equal to included shipped, right? Include shipped. And let's just rejig that. So I'm going to rename my symbol to include shipped. There we go. That'll update that one. And that is the end of the input. That means this part right here is something we want to put down here inside the input. Class form check input and then label. Okay, cool. So that's going to be the checkbox. That's what this is. So this is the checkbox. Okay. Next is the table. Table with the class of table.table small, and inside that there's a table head, and beside that we'll put a table body. And I don't believe there's a table footer right now. I don't think so. Just those two things. Let's click on that, and that's how it looks right now. And then inside the, let's make some room inside the table head and body. Inside the table head, we're going to have a table row. Inside the table, we're going to have table headings times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, let's say, times 5. Okay, and inside the table headings, they're going to be following: name, postal code. Right, we're going to have that, and a table heading with a column span of 2, and we're going to have the cart, and then a couple of spaces. And then inside the table body, we're going to have a table row with a class of nothing. No table row class, just in there. In the table row, what we're going to have inside here is a column, but the column is going to be conditional. So we're going to say that conditional, ngIf, get orders, and if dot length, if the length of the orders that we're going to get back is equal to 0, then what we want to say is something here in the table column, where a column span is equal to 5. There are no orders. There are no orders. Awesome. And that's that. And then what we want to do is we want to do an ng template. This is new. And again, we're using Angular forms here. ng-template. And we want for ng template is to, inside here, we want to do a ng-for. And we're going to say this, for, oh, this is actually incorrect. ng-for let o, and then ng for of. So this is another way of doing a repeating area. So we're basically saying this, okay, we're going to do a for loop, and O is the order, right? That's what we call it. We can name this whatever we want. And we're going to do a for of for every order in order. So that's what this does, another way of doing it. And then inside of this, inside the template, we're going to have a tr. And just like in the table row, we're going to have in the table row a bunch of TDs. So 2 TDs, 2 THs, and another TD, it looks like. Let's try that. So again, TD times 2. Okay, and let's do that first. So those are the TDs times 2. In the first TD, we're going to put in the double mustaches, o.name. It's the order name. And we're going to put o.postal code. Okay, order.postal code is what that is, right? And then followed by table header times 2, where you're going to have the product and you're going to have the quantity. So this is actually showing us the order, right? Which is what we want. And this is a repeating section. Then we're going to have a TD, that's another column. Inside of that, we're going to have a button. With a class of button, button-warning with a margin of 1. And then inside of that, we're going to have an I tag with a class of, let me see what we're going to have here. Actually, this is probably, I can do that by hand. All right, so let's try this out and see what happens as we have this. So again, we want to put this in here and here, and let's do that. So there's your button class. Now in your M1, what we want to put in is a click event that's equal to marked shipped. We're going to pass in the order that we want shipped. So we want to ship this one. And then what we want to do with the button is an I tag, and the class is going to be variable. This is kind of neat. So we're going to say the class, you can do this too, and double kind of mustaches or mustache, o.shipped, we can say, if o.shipped is true, right, then what we want to say is that then FAS fa-shipping .fast. So I want to make a fast truck, or FAS fa-truck. So just a truck that's going to show up. So either the fast looking truck or a truck. So a truck that looks like it's speeding, and a truck. And then at the end, it's going to show either one or the other. This is conditionals. So if o.shipped is true, then what we're going to do is we're going to show shipped. However, if o.shipped is false, then we're going to show ship. So one or the other. So either ship or shipped. Okay? And this is, in effect, going to show us two different symbols and two different buttons. So the button is actually going to look different every time, depending on if it's shipped or if I want to unship it. All right, so that is that column. And then there's going to be another column with another button, a button inside of it, which is the class of button-danger. So a red button. Usually a red button means that we're going to delete something. Inside of that button, we're going to have an I tag with a class of FAS FA-trash alt, so a little trash can. And we want to put that I tag and underneath the button, underneath the table column. Okay, so that's kind of where it's going to go. And we'll space it out nicely in there so we can see that the column is where it's supposed to be. So there's column, and there's the button. Let's put this button on the next line actually. So it kind of looks like this, button danger. So this danger, if I click on this thing, on click, when I click on the button, then what I want is for it to delete. And I'm going to pass in the object that I want to delete, o._id. right? So that's the object, the order of the ID order that I want to delete. I want to pass that in. And what we want is at the end the delete in there, which is going to show delete and then button at the end. So that is a couple buttons. That's going to appear for all of them. And then finally, after all that stuff, so we have all these different TDs, TR, and finally before the NG template's over, we want another TR, and inside of that we want 3 TDs. Okay, like something like this. So in the TR on the top, this is going to be an NG4 repeating section. NG4 for equals to let line of o.cart.lines, right? So for every line of cart lines, right? That's what we're saying here. We want to give the first column, cancel. We want to give the first column call span of 2. And we want to say that, double mustaches. Okay, double mustache, you're going to say line dot product, or actually dot book, sorry, line dot book, dot name. So the book name. And here we're going to show line dot quantity. Okay, so that's what's going to show there. So book name and quantity, which is fine. And that's going to be the template for our order table, which is pretty cool. All right, so that is showing our order table. But we need to make it work because right now it's not going to show. We're not in a position to show our order table at all. We have to actually use the order table component in order for us to show the order table. And there's got to be a root for this, right? Because again, we don't have a root. And if we look at our admin module, we need somewhere where the order table component is going to be displayed. So again, if I go to my admin module, you can see that here is where I can start putting in my children. Okay, so put the children back in there. And what we're going to say in the children is the following. We want an order. The first thing I want to show is the orders. We're going to say that path orders. And we want to be, from a component perspective, we want to use order table component. Got to be careful because we want to use the right one, order table component. We actually see it up there already. Order table component is active. And because it's been added to our module, we can just kind of add it in, order table component. For the data portion, we're going to say that the title is going to be the order table, and can activate, we're going to put that in there too, right? Can activate, sorry, I meant to do there, can activate, I knew this was a problem because we didn't get proper things, was auth guard. All right, so that kind of protects it from being accessed outside of our proper channels, so to speak, right? Because otherwise we're going to be in the wrong spot. All right, so that looks pretty good for our order table. We should, after we save this, be able to go to the order tables when we click on it. Let's see what happens. All right, so back to our table. Cool. I want to look at the order table, so let's log in. And if I click orders, then we should see it. Cool. All right, this is great. We also have an error, but that's okay. At least we can see our tables. We have 2 orders, one from Tom Smith, the other one from Tom Smythe. And we have a couple of quantity. So the product, the postal code, and if you want to ship it or not. Well, shipping it will actually modify the product. Deleting it will delete the order. We don't have this in place. All right, so then we say that, so let's take a look here. Here's a call stack. So refresh view, execute template, order table template, okay, on line 21, and then order table component, get orders, on order table component on 19, that is where the error is. So back to order table component, line 19, and it says filter. It doesn't know what this filter is. So again, order table component. I'm checking my notes. And it says, let's see what we've done to make this wrong. So really, what it's supposed to do is be here, right? That's the filter. So the repository, get orders, as an example, we get multiple orders back. We want to filter, get orders. Sorry, I just want to make sure this is right. The order itself, we want to filter with this include shipped is what it should say. Oh, this is wrong. This should be include shipped. Let's refactor, rename. Include shipped. This include shipped, or the order has been shipped, one of the two. The order is not shipped, then we want to filter by this. Okay. Still, that shouldn't cause this issue to come up, which means it's something else. And the filter came up twice, actually. So if I refresh this table, which actually is interesting, we can do that because it means we're still logged in. It's still the same thing. So order table component 19 is trying to filter something that doesn't exist, right? So let's see. It says error type cannot read property filter of undefined. All right, so that's the order array. And then this is going to, okay, so let's just take this out for now. I want to just see, we're just going to comment it out and start typing. So dot filter. Yeah, that should totally work. I mean, it actually shows me the filter. So this dot include shipped or not o dot shipped. Okay, that should totally work. And it doesn't like that, which means maybe we're not getting anything back from orders. So, okay, we'll do it in 2 steps. This is always a good exercise because we can do this in 2 steps. We can say that, well, first of all, let's take a look at orders. We'll go to definition for that. So orders says get orders returns a, and this is in the REST data source. Get orders. Oh, that's a problem. That is a real. Wait, is it in the data source? Where are we? We are in the order repository. Sorry, we're in the order repository. So get orders in the order.repository. That's correct. So we're saying, hey, get an order array, return an order array. And it's going to say, if not is this loaded, then get orders. And then return this dot orders. If it's not loaded, get orders and loaded. Otherwise, don't return it. So when does loaded become true? What we call load orders. When is load orders called? So there might be some issue here because we never used this before, so we don't know. Data source, void, true. I'm just looking through my code here. Orders. Is this orders is equal to orders? So this is equal to this. That's what this is saying. And then the order, get orders, we're going to load orders. Which is going to call here. We're just going to say this dot data source get orders dot subscribe to orders, and this dot orders is equal to orders. Something looks wrong there. So loader is true if we get to load orders. Otherwise, return orders. If not this loaded. If not this loaded, loaded is equal to false. So it should start off with an order is orders. I'm just here we are. Wow. Wow. Who would have thought? So this is going to be something where it's going to have a problem. That's better. Okay. Okay, cool. So that was the issue. That's orders. And now what the heck is this line here? I don't know what that is. That should be a checkbox, and that does not look like any checkbox to me. In fact, that is an error. Some kind of error in code. So again, going back to that, remember I said that was a kind of a weird checkbox that we had there. That's an HTML problem. So let's go back to that HTML. And that is, okay, so we've already got an error happening. So here we have this extra space, we can get rid of it. And then here we have an include shipped, which should be include shipped. That didn't update. And that should be false. What? Yeah, something is wrong with this little thing here. That doesn't seem right. Like I said, something was off when I first saw this this order table thing. I was like, wait, that doesn't look right. And it didn't look right. Form check label. And then what we want is an input. What is that label? I'm just curious. If I just type in label, yeah, no, I need that part. But should that be inside the label? I think they're supposed to be separate myself. It should be, this should be here actually. Input should be there, but, and then display shipped orders. Oh, I see. That should be the actual label up here. So that should be here. And what if I did that? Input is type is checkbox. Yes. What if it was like this? I think probably maybe it was okay, but that was the only issue. Form check input. Well, let's see what happens. Let's see what it looks like when I go back. Okay, I see what they've done. That's why we want to put it the other way around. So this shouldn't be here. This whole thing should be down here, because the input is going to be part of the label. And now, yes, that's how it should look. So this should be display shipped orders or not. When it's time to display shipped orders, we're going to see this. Okay, and this is when I want to ship. If I click ship, it should update, but it's going to give me an error because it says post edit, whatever the code is, it says 404 not found. There is no orders edit because I didn't have that on the back end. We don't have that shipping, not shipping thing. And if I refresh, we're going to see it come back because there is no ship, not ship thing. Books, on the other hand, we don't have a books thing. We don't have a books list, so it's going to take us back to login, and we're just going to log out. Okay, so pretty cool with the order list. And that thing that covers our stuff here. But just to end off and to prepare for next time when we come back with the next video, what I want to do is go over to the back end now and do a couple things. I want to secure the back end a little bit. So again, I'm going to cover, so the models are good. We've got our models, we don't need that anymore. But in the roots and the controllers, if I go to roots, all right, and if I look inside the, so we have order book root. Let's go to the order root for a second. Right now, the only thing I have for the order root is a list and an add. I can't do a delete or an update, right? So I need to add those two things, but inside of my order controller, I actually have a process order. Right, here's my process order, process add page, and a display order list. So I need to do all this work. So let's start with the order controller first, where I have to do a lot more stuff. So display order list, that we did that, we tested that. Display add page, we did that. We don't care about the display add page actually. Process add page is cool. And then what we want to do is we want to process the edit page. All right, let's do process the edit page. So the add page and the edit page are very similar. So module.exports process edit page. process edit page is equal to request response and next. Okay, and what we want to do with this one is we want to do let ID is equal to request.params .id. Again, this is going to look at the parameters that we've set up. We want to, again, serialize the cart data. Visual Studio Code. Erase one thing, erase it all. And then let my cart equals to, this is where we're going to capitalize on that cart we made way back, a new cart object. And I want to, again, serialize the line data. So all this stuff is the same as what I have kind of up here, right? Where I want to do I want to process the edit page and the add page are almost identical, in fact. The only difference between the two is this part, the new order, right? As opposed to the updated order. So let's grab all this, because this is identical. This product, which is the book, is equal to the new book. We're going to get the ID, the name, the author, all that kind of stuff like we had before, and book and quantity, and the item count, and all this kind of stuff. That's all going to be the thing for each of the lines in the cart. So that's where we're going to put that in. Right, so that's what that's going to happen with. I'm just making sure that that is all good. Price, quantity, and we're going to push on to the lines list, and so basically we're building up the cart again. And then in this case, instead of making a new order, we're going to update the order. We're going to say that we're going to update the order object, and we're going to call this the updated order. And we're also going to include an ID. We're going to say that underscore ID this time is equal to ID, the ID that we get from the order that we're updating. Okay. And what we're going to do here is at the bottom, this is where all the work is being done. We're going to say, hey order, let's update one. And we're going to update the ID of the object that I want to update, ID. So we're looking for the ID, which is the ID. This is the first. Remember, the first part, the first object is the search object, the thing we're looking for, and then updated order. We're going to pass in, an error object, and if there's an error, then we want to log it. So we're going to say console log error, and we want to stop the server. We want to capture that error because we don't want that to come and bite us later. And then else, everything goes well, we'll send a success message. So res.json, and we're going to say that success, right, is true. Success is true. And our message is actually going to be successfully updated or edited book. The order, actually. I'll be okay. Did I make a mistake? Line, book is a new book. Yeah, for every book in the book. Yeah, that's right. That's correct. And we want to pass in order, which is the updated order. Okay, that's what we want to pass over to be saved. Okay, so that is the process edit page, and let's add the delete now. That's the last one. We want to perform delete. So I say module.exports.perform delete, and then we're going to pass in a request response and next object. And what we want to do is we want to say let ID equal to request.params.id. Okay, so the parameter that we're going to get, we're going to say the order delete one. And we're going to delete the order that we find. We're going to search for the order that is with an ID of ID. And what we also want to do is we want to pass in an error if there's an error. And if there's an error, then we want to log it. we can actually copy this whole part. It's the exact same up to there. And however, if there's not an error, then we want a res.json. We can actually copy that whole part too. And we just take away some of it. It's just easier. And yeah, okay, so then success is true. Message will be successfully deleted order. We don't need this anymore. We just have to say that we deleted it. Yay. All right, so that is the controller piece. That's the logic behind the route. We don't have routes yet, but we're going to put them in. And that's the first step. First step is make the controller, and then you put the order route. The order route, we have a couple of things now for the route. We want to protect some of these things. We want to use passport.authenticate. So this is different than what we've done before. We've used require auth, and you're going to see that we don't need this anymore. We're going to use something else. So get, no problem. Add, no problem, because we can add any order we can when we thing. But if I want to modify the order, so post route for processing the the edit page, right? The update page. Or maybe we'll say post request, and we'll do update the database, yeah, with data from the edit order page. And we also want to do a get request, perform the delete order action. All right, so those are the two things we're going to do. In here, we're going to do router.post. Here's the new path, edit /:ID, and then passport.authenticate. This is the way we block things now. With JWT, they got to be logged in, and we want to say that the session is false, right? Session is false. And we want to have the order controller dot process edit page. Okay, so that's the guard now that we're going to use, this passport authenticate. It won't allow us to do this unless we have authorization, unless the person is logged in, okay? And we also want to do the same thing for delete. We're going to say router.get, so we're protecting the back end as well as the front end now. Delete, and then we want to do the same thing, /ID, where we want to do passport.authenticate. We want to pass in the JWT type of thing where we want to make sure that session is false. This is the structure, and then order controller dot perform delete. So that is the two routes we need, and we're going to save that. Now let's make sure that that doesn't break anything. So again, I like to always look at what I'm doing here for this part. Okay, so that's this. There are no routes right now that we should block. Like for example, in the index controller, the index controller really has 3 active routes, and they're, whether they're a login, a register, or a logout. We don't really have a register page that's available to us on the bookstore because we didn't create those pages yet. We could, but we're not going to. A little outside of scope of what we're doing here, but let's continue. So login, register, and logout, which is what we have here, and then we have the order routes, which are here now. So add, edit, and delete. So those are the ones we have. All right, I think we're ready to try it. Let's see if we can edit it first. So going back to the top, actually the thing is we should look at is the app.js file. And that's in the config package. So in config, look at app.js, and if we scroll down, we can see the routes that we've configured already, right? So the routes are, when we use app.use, we have orders as the main thing. We still haven't added in the API part, we can add that in later. That's just for convention. All right, so let's go back and see if this works. So again, we're here. Let's log in. Okay, so we logged in successfully, and I want to see the orders. Right, there it is. And then in the orders page, I want to ship this order. So if I click ship, it should update. All right, so now let's see where that is. So it says, all right, we have a problem. It says that lines is undefined. First of all, did it do what it's supposed to do on the back end? So on the back end, it said orders edit 200. All right, that's pretty good. So it did update it. All right, that means if I refresh, then yeah, it's shipped. It actually did that thing. But there was a problem with this. It says lines, didn't know what lines meant. And then if I click display shipped, it shows it. So it means if it was shipped. How about if I unship it? If I click this again, notice that there's a little, that truck that I was talking about. If I click this again, okay, we got this error happening again. Cannot read lines of undefined. Okay, well, let's take a look. That's in order table, ng template, under HTML component 41. Line 41 is what we're looking at. So let's go there. So it goes to the order template, .html, and then line 41. And here's this o.cart.lines. Okay. Well, let's think about what I'm trying to do here, right? So we're reloading the page, right? And what's happening is it's trying to show this line for every line in lines, right? Cart.lines. And there is no cart because we're deleting it. We're actually removing it, right? So when we refresh, this works great. But when we don't, this is bad, right? And, to figure out how big it is, we want to say that if we want to only display, this is a repeating section. That's what's causing us to have a problem. So what we're saying is remove it. Okay, fine. When we remove it, it doesn't show it anymore, right? It's gone. But we have it in here as remember we have an ng if get orders.length is equal to 0, then we play this thing here. We also do this part. So we have two repeating sections. One part here, so where we have a template, and my template, which ends here, we've got a repeating section in here inside of a template. So this is where the problem is, because the repeating section is in the template. I don't think I want to correct it right now, only because from a time perspective, we've got lots to do, and it's getting on, and we want to make sure that it's done. So still lots to do. Okay, so let me just check it just really briefly, because I don't want to leave any stone unturned, so to speak. But we may just leave it. It's a minor glitch that we can fix at another time if I need to. So it's the order component.html. And let's take a look here. So G4 of where the orders are this, and then O postal code product and name. And we're going to do this only if orders of how many orders. So for every order of orders, and I wonder if orders is getting updated, like the actual length of the order, like how many that they have because of the templates. Order.name, order.postal code. Yeah, I'm not going to fight with this right now. I think it looks pretty good other than that little glitch. Yeah, so that shows us where it's shipped or not shipped, right? And what this should be doing is basically hiding this part, but it's showing it, right? And it shouldn't show it because there is this order is being hidden. So this order that I'm trying to display shipped orders, is going to be shown because we keep track of the order itself, as an example, if the order's been shipped, right? But this should actually hide the actual order itself, right? Not because one part of it says, okay, so for every line in cart lines, O.cart lines, O is coming from this O. O.shipped, right? O.shipped. And O is still the same length. It's still, we still have a cart, and the cart has several lines, but lines, as an example, if lines is, if the line itself is big, then I don't want to show, if line doesn't exist, right, then I don't want to show this. So theoretically, I could, do an ng if, right? But that would be really weird, like to do an ng if down here, say something like ng if, and again, it would have to be inside because there is no line in cart lines. Line would be only available in here, right? So that would be something like a span, because we can't put a div around here. If I put a div tag, well, actually, maybe. I'm trying to think about this from an HTML perspective for a second. Let's see if I do this now, what does it look like? Yeah, see that looks really weird. See how that splits it off because of that extra div tag? It doesn't know what to do, right? So instead of a div, let's make that a span. Because the span we can use to do all kinds of lovely things. But even then, it doesn't like that. Yeah. Span column 2, but we want to kind of not show those. So let's get rid of these. So we could do two ng ifs. We could say that only show this if, this is a way of hiding the error, ng if, line exists. If line exists, because line may not exist, then show it. And I think this might take care of that problem, right? And that's pretty cool. So ng if line exists, show it. But if it doesn't exist, yeah. So it still shows it. It still shows it. Because it's trying to do something. It's trying to display stuff in here and can't. Because, and that's not, so that it didn't really work. Let me undo those changes. So it can't check the line for every line in cart lines because it's almost like I can't get here. And because I'm trying to hide the order. Anyways, I'm not going to go and troubleshoot this. It's not really that important. It's just a minor glitch. But you can see that I can hide or show depending on what I'm doing. It's actually still there. It's not removed from the order list. It's been shipped, and you can unship it. How about deletion? So I want to delete this Tom Smythe order. So delete. All right, so that, you can clearly see something went wrong there. Delete didn't work. And let's see if what it did on the back end of my stuff. Oh yeah, it broke. Okay, so what happened? So it says ID is undefined. Okay. That is definitely a problem. So that is something we need to fix. And it's going to try and, if this is a broken server, what's happening here? So options, it says that perform delete, module perform delete in order.js. It says there is a 204. So that actually worked. So the options where it says 204 means it's good. That's all good, right? And then, but when it came to this, it says unhandled promise rejection warning. Type error, cannot read property ID of undefined. So what's happening is that it's not properly sending the ID over of the ID. We have to do a bit of a trace here. So let's see how that works. So it could be on both the front end or the back end. So here, this looks okay because we're looking at sending the ID of the order that we're clicking on over, right? That's the first thing. We say that we're going to click the delete button. This is good. And this goes back into the controller side, which is here. So on this side, I'll bring this back. We get the delete. So let's take a look at the delete. Delete takes an ID, which is a number, and we use this.repository delete order. We pass in the ID, delete order, and let's go there. So let's keep tracing it. So if by the way, the way to do this properly would be to console log. Hey, what's the ID of the order? Right? Well, we know it works because look, up until this point, we're good. We're getting the ID right here. It came to this. It actually came right to the end to get this, right? And it's even the right ID. Look, 8642. I think this is on the back end because it's done. I've done everything on the front end that I need to do. Let's go on the back end and look and see what the problem is. I can see that that is the back end. So again, in my route, let's go to my order route and see if this is wrong. So we receive the order. This is the GET request. Let's go back and see that. So the order route looks okay. Delete, ID, passport, authenticate, JWT session false. So yeah, there it is. There it is. Yeah. And that's why perform delete whenever it was never done, because it was a typo. Wow. Wow, guys. So it says get orders delete, and that, wow, that probably might be deleted right now. Let's take a look and see if that happened. Refresh. And now we can't display it because it's been deleted, so that's good. Okay, let's add a new order. So I'm going to go to books. Let's add a couple of orders. A new order. Let's make it a big one. So this one, so kind of big order. We want a few books. I want a couple of books of Dune. The new movie's coming out, and so I wanted to give that to somebody. Let's say so a couple of orders of that, and I want to check out. This form needs to be fixed. So Tom, we'll say Bond this time. Tom Bond, and it's 1 Bond Street in North York and Ontario, and M9B 4G5, making it up. Canada. All right, cool. And we're going to go down here and complete the order. And that generates the order. This is the order itself, which adds the cart, return to the store, which comes back here. If I go to admin and I go to orders, then I see only this one, Tom Smith. Let's refresh that. There it is. So that's another issue. Didn't really refresh that order. Again, minor refreshing stuff, but there's my order right here. I want to ship it, which does it. There's shipped, so you can see that it's shipped, right? And I can unship it, which also can work. There's unshipped. Again, I'm just ignoring the error. And then I want to delete it. And then that's a problem because we're not getting any kind of confirmation to delete. Do you wish to delete kind of thing? Which means we can kind of make it so that when I click the delete button, and remember that I have this one page in here to stop me from deleting. I did that kind of with our script, right? So remember on the back end, we ended up doing that, or with on the public area, we have a scripts folder. We have an app.js folder. We have all this code. I can take this exact same code right here, and remember that I have a scripts area. Here's scripts, where I have my app.js, and let's put that in this. So this is the script that I want to use instead. This is the same script before. I want to go back to my page, and this time when I click on, if I refresh, if I click on delete, then it should ask me if I'm sure. Are you sure? No, I'm not sure, and it won't do it. It's going to take me back to this page. Let me see if I have my orders. Do I still have it, or did it delete it? Ooh, that's a problem. That's a real problem. Let's see if what happened on the back end. It says orders.delete. It actually did the delete. Yeah, that's not good. All right, so we got issues with our site right now, but nothing too crazy, that's for sure. So what does that say? It says basically, okay, I'm going to try and press the button. I'm going to have an event listener for the confirm. Are you sure? And if I'm sure, then I want to prevent default. And I did this on the front end with our own custom script. But the problem with this is it's disconnected from the button. And I want to make this confirm happen, this part right here, every time I press the button. So let's just do another thing. Let's undo this change that I had. So this is the original thing that I had in here. And let's go back down to that little app.js thing. Because remember, one thing that we have is we have the power of everything to bear. I can bring all this to bear. But instead of bringing it to bear here in a script that's outside, if I really want to, the problem with it is I should probably bring it into the code behind file, which is this one. I call it the code behind file because that's what it is. So it goes to the delete, and then I'm going to do something that looks like this. I'm going to say, hey, if delete, if my delete is cool, I'm going to say, are you sure? I'm going to make a confirm. That is totally fine. I can totally do this. And then it says event prevent default if not confirm, right? If not confirm, well, I don't want to do anything, right? If confirm, instead of doing it this way, Windows location assign book list. If confirm, then I want to do my delete, right? I want to delete it. So it's this, right? Otherwise, I want to, I don't care about preventing defaults. Otherwise, I want to do this. So I can say else. I'd like rather do it this way. So confirm, are you sure? And then what this is going to do is going to say, hey, yeah, if I'm sure, yes, then, you know, delete it, delete the order. If I'm not sure, right, then I'm going to run over here. So this is kind of a way of doing it too, right? So I'm going to route an if else. And this is kind of a guard that I'm using here. Okay, first of all, let's add an order and try this out and then go back and see what happens. So let's add an order. So again, we're going to go to books, add a couple things to the cart, maybe. And then after we add something to the book, we want to check out. We want to say Tom Bond with 1 Bond Street and North York. Oh, North York and Ontario M9 B5G5 and Canada. And what we want to do is we want to complete the order. Complete. Go back to the store. I want to take a look at the orders, please. Okay, there's no orders. That's a problem. But let's refresh. We see it. And if I want to click delete, it should come up with a question. Do you sure? No, I'm not sure. Cancel. Wait, did it do it? Let's go back to books. Let's go back to admin, and hopefully we're not going to see it canceled. Yay, that worked. What we can also make it do is come back to this, to orders. So let's go back and do that then. So we can make it go back to, instead of going back to book list, we can go back to the order list that got us here in the first place. So admin order, and again, we can get that information from the admin module, right? So it's, remember how that works, right? So when we put together that admin area, so in admin area, we have our admin HTML, and we have to go to admin main orders. This is the list. So we might as well take this list, and when we go into our table orders here, and our table.ts, just replace it with that. So we can basically go back to the list and show that list again. The other thing we can do is mark shipped and unshipped. We can always go and window location assign is like router. We don't have a router here, but this is definitely an ugly way of doing it too. We can do a window location assign, but that's kind of weird. What we want to do instead of this admin main orders is we want to do a router dot, we want to traverse, but we want to be able to have the router up here in order for me to do that. And I don't have our router in here. We do have it in here, and this is navigate by URL is really what I want to have. So I want to include the router. I'm going to take this router here, and I want to include that in the table order here. I know we're going to running way over in this one, but bear with me. All right, so there's our private router, and we can put in router. There's a router up here. We can put that in. And now that we have the router, instead of doing this.location assign, we want to do an Angular thing, which is this.router navigate by URL. That's the better way to do it. And again, going back to this, we can kind of replace this, which is going to do what we want it to do, as opposed to we want. And you know, that might give me a sense of what we should do when we do our mark shipped and unshipped. as an example, maybe what we want to do is we also want to go back to this and refresh the screen kind of thing, as opposed to what we did before. So that's not a terribly bad idea, actually. So mark shipped, shipped and unshipped, and then go back to this screen. It's almost like add this in over here. So kind of do that back to orders kind of thing. And that's one thing we definitely could do. Okay, so that's something we can try that anyway. Maybe that'll fix our problem. So again, we can refresh. We can see that that's if I click shipped, it still didn't fix it. All right. So, but if I refresh and I click so shipped orders and unship, and it's back. If I click delete, it's going to say no, cancel. It's going to come back to here. So nothing happened. It didn't go anywhere because it didn't leave. But let's go back to that one area again. So mark shipped. So order.shipped is equal to false true, and then it says the repository update order, and then we want to try and navigate back, but it doesn't navigate back. And most probably what it is the HTML here, because it's not reloading. That's what's happening, right? So I could make it so that when we mark shipped, if it's shipped, just don't show it, kind of thing, if it's shipped. But that's what should really be happening, because if I'm not wrong, if we mark it as shipped, we can vary what we see here, but we don't want to see the order itself if the order is shipped. And we're going to get the order information up here. So that's the name, the postal code, product, and quantity. We want to basically say that this table row, for that particular order, so we say ng if, so star ng if, sorry, it's just, I know I'm a little bit obsessing on this one, but it's okay. If o dot shipped, right? So if order is not shipped, if not order shipped, then show everything. Otherwise, don't. Okay, let's see how that works. All right, so it's not shipped, but if I click shipped, oh, okay, almost. Then it kind of went there and showed all those things anyway, plus the delete button. But and it shouldn't have really. Oh, it didn't even show that part. Okay. Okay, I get it. All right, sorry. So what's happening is, right, that's why it's template. So we can't do this because it's trying to do that even on this things that's been shipped. And that's why you get your delete button and all this stuff, because it's trying to print stuff out where there is no name. And all that kind of stuff. If there's no name, it's trying to show it, but even though the order doesn't exist. All right, well, the other thing we can try is, well, anyways, it's just something to do with the way this has been coded. I'm not going to go into it too much anymore. All right, so that was a very long haul of getting the order, shown as an example, which is pretty cool. So you can see here that it's been shipped. So far, we have to refresh to make this work. There's a bit of a glitch. I'm not going to work it out right now, but this is pretty cool, where we can kind of set up a way of showing the order, shipping it, or deleting it. We can check to see if they want to delete it. If I press cancel, nothing happens. It stays where it's supposed to be. Books doesn't work. It just takes us back to login, and that's the next thing we're going to hit. So we can modify books. Okay, thank you for that. We'll see you in the next video.